And the clue is in the name. I mean, people get anxious about the word court. They always see something as very contentious. But the key word is protection. It's there to protect the vulnerable. It can be contentious. The whole aim of it is that if somebody is disadvantaged, cannot act for themselves and make decisions for themselves, then somebody should be there to represent them and make sure that things are done properly for them financially, or in health and welfare in certain situations. And the idea is that the deputy is authorised, they're put in by a court order, which is their authority to deal with the affairs of the patient. But the sort of situation where that might happen, I mean, in a happy family, you may have a husband who is involved in a road accident, for example, and the wife is financially sensible, and it would be quite proper to appoint her as a deputy to just keep the show on the road and act in his best interests. But there are cases like that where perhaps there might be a conflict of interest, between the wife and the husband. There are cases where children, perhaps two children, want to act for dad, and they have very different views about how that ought to be done. And actually it's what dad's views would have been that's important. And if they can't agree on that, then you might get a contentious situation which the court has to decide about. And in that situation, they would probably appoint an independent person as a deputy to take the sting out of the family, knowing that would be much better for dad. And it's also better for dad that his offspring are actually not warring over things, and it's, things actually quite often settle down in family sense much better that way too. So the sort of cases one might get involved with, road accidents. I've got a couple of very nice lads who, in each case, had come off worse with an altercation with a lamppost on their motorbike. Head injuries, sadly, one rather more severe than the other. But in each case, quite a substantial payout from the insurers. Neither of them has any experience of managing money. Neither of them, now they're injured, actually would really, at the moment, be able to do that. Mums and dads, actually, the boys don't want mummy and daddy to look after their finances because they feel too old for that, and it adds a bit of a layer of tension between parent and child. And in those cases, the court has said, well, we'll put somebody independent in. It's actually quite a lot of money. It ought to be somebody who's got some experience and who knows what advice to take, what have you. So they might put somebody like me in that sort of situation. But equally, there are cases with older people who think that they have not lost their capacity. They feel they're perfectly capable, thank you, but they may be doing some really quite self-damaging things with their finances, and somebody in the family may well apply to say, look, we are really worried about dad, and we think somebody ought to be appointed, and we'd be happy to do it. And again, quite often the court will say, that's fine, carry on. Anybody is allowed to make eccentric decisions, or foolish decisions, actually, as long as they've got the capacity to do that. So the fact that he's doing odd things doesn't necessarily mean to say that he's lost his capacity. You have to have a proper medical evidence in support of the application to say, yeah, this chap actually is beginning to fray. May not have frayed completely, but is beginning to fray, and somebody just needs to keep him, give him a hand, really. Keep him where they're right.